Well, hello again. It's been a week, and I promised for another video. Hopefully, I can keep this up for a while, make it a routine, a good routine. For the most part, this is, I guess, kind of like a blog, personal journal, videotape journal. Hopefully, in a couple of years, I can sit back, laugh at this, and understand where my mind was at this point in time. Um, Second part to this perfection, the construct of perfection. Like I said in the past, I personally believe that humankind created the idea of perfection for a coping mechanism, as in a way to survive. I believe people in the past needed to be perfected, or not perfected, but had to live a life of almost perfection as far as making mistakes, right? Because, you sprain your ankle, you can't go out there, take care of your farm. Next thing you know, you're out on your ass, or you're out and you're sick and you can't really get back. You can't bounce back like we can today. And next thing you're talking to the Almighty. So that's where I'm coming from, kind of when I said that. But right now, I feel like people are trying to reach perfection without having to put themselves out there. I think people are too afraid to take a loss. And so, with them being afraid of taking a loss, they believe themselves to be perfect. Um, in truth, it is part of the universe's plan. The cosmos rules for you to lose in order for you to gain. You can't necessarily become perfect without losing some type of part of yourself. Not really necessarily a part of yourself, but just taking your losses, right? Um, you can never know how to really drive in the snow if you never really driven in the snow. You can't really sit there and talk. I can't talk to somebody in Wyoming and tell him how to drive in the snow, and I'm out here in Texas and we barely even see snow. So you kind of have to not necessarily stay in your lane, but you kind of have to get out your lane so you can experience everything. If you really truly believe in the construct of perfection, of being able to deal with almost any circumstance and stuff like that, then you got to get out your box. You got to be able to take your losses, your lumps. You got to be able to, get your nose bloody and be like, it's okay. At least for me personally, that's what I believe. I believe you will never truly attain your perfection until you've sat down and calculated all your experiences together and understand them.
Helps you stay
You know,
hydrated through
in
any
the
workout.
end,
It has all the electrolytes
when
in
you're
Gatorade.
when you pass on, that's up to Jesus, or God, or whoever you believe in, Allah or something like that, right? So it's up to him, so him or her. So either way, like when they call it at a time that possibly you were done growing. You spent your time out here long enough. And so what are you gonna be able to say? That's something that's always been bothering me as far as my young life. Like I'm 29, college grad, everything. Seems pretty well to the books, but what am I gonna be able to say to God when I meet him, when he or she asks, like, what did you think, or how did you live your life? When you fell in love, did you give it your all? Did you actually keep putting yourself out there so you can attain what you wanted? And that's just one case. What about chasing your dreams? Um, was your dream really meant for you, or was it meant for somebody else? Um, what was your idea of perfection? Did you give all that you could to one thing or multiple things? Just a food for thought, right? Like, what are you gonna say when God asks you that question? Like, what did you obtain, and what did you give yourself to? You know, it's easy for people to be like, "Oh, I gave myself to your work," but what if God never asked you for anything? You know, then what? You know, again, like I said, I personally believe God created us, gave us freedom of will, you know, and thoughts, just so God can experience as much as he can or she can without it being skewed by his or her own mind. And that's the burden of being a human, making our choices. You know, but in our choices is perfection. Every choice is a perfect choice. You know, the imperfect choice is the choice that you choose not to make. It's the choice that you allow others to make for you, or you allow circumstance to make for you. You know, it's funny how I'm my background. I come from Oakland, California, and it's funny when I go home and I see my family, and a lot of them are complaining. Like, oh, like, man, they doing this, they doing that to the hood. Like, it's not the same no more, or this nigga just got smoked, that nigga just got robbed, and everything like that. And then you sit down and you think about it, and you tell them, like, yo, like, get up and move. And they be like, oh, yeah, I'm looking at it, but like, they never move. you know, they're too comfortable. They're, the people that they know live out there, instead of them being like, yo, there's great people everywhere you go. They're stuck, you know, and they created that safety zone for them because they understand that, it's just funny, that they can measure perfection in an ugly environment and make it perfect for them when they know that they're not happy. They're not willing to put themselves out on the line and become more and see more. You got only a finite amount of time. And in the end, like I said earlier, what are you going to be able to say? Um, you know, it's hard to, it's always hard to make a choice. You know, it's always hard to make a choice, but it's easy as soon as you don't think about it. You know, once you want to be a good person, then don't think about being a good person. Just do good. You know, um, the sad thing is right now, just to be good, people are putting an asterisk against around it. Nowadays, like, I'm not gonna go feed the homeless without somebody taking a picture of me feeding the homeless. Like, so are you really doing it because you want to help the homeless, or are you doing it for the clout? Are you doing it because you want people to see that you have a heart of gold? That's the sad thing about the nowadays. Sure, you may be giving the good, but the energy is skewed and greed. You know, greed for that intention. Um, and that's where, like I said in the last video, that we're going to get into those sins, um, and dissect them and understand them. I don't necessarily believe that the 7 sins are necessarily things that you can do. I believe that they're things that you become. I don't think you can sin in pride without being a prideful person. I don't think you could be do something greedy without being a greedy person. Sometimes people just do things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're greedy. It just means at that point of time that maybe they weren't willing to share. Um, you have some bread and you're starving, but you see somebody else over there starving, and you're known for being that person that gives all the time, but just for that one moment or that one time, like, you know what, I don't feel like giving my piece of bread. That does not make you a greedy person. That just means, at that time you were, you felt more for your needs than another person. And I think that's the construct of trying to be that's the construct of perfection, trying to manipulate the human mind, right? Or what we created as perfection, manipulating the human mind, that we too much give into one instance and try to loop that into every other thing that's been done. And that's just in life general. Like I said, we'll go through all of them. We'll talk about pride, greed, lust, wrath, uh, um, envy, sloth, and gluttony. We'll go through all of them. A lot of them, they're completely different things. But it's important that you recognize them. It's important that you recognize your enemies. Thank you for listening, and like I said, this is just as much for me as it is for all of you, whoever end up watching this. But send this with love, and I hope you have a good day.